Welcome back to Mrs. Hines U.S. History class. So before we finish up our discussion about the American Revolution, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the life of probably one of the most interesting characters that fought in the American Revolution, a guy that we lovingly know as America's favorite fighting Frenchman, the Marquis de Lafayette. Born in Chavagnat, France in September 1757, Marie-Joseph Paul-Yves Roch Gilgot de Montier, the Marquis de Lafayette, descended from a long line of French military officers. Later in life, Lafayette actually joked that he was christened like a Spaniard with the name of every conceivable saint who might offer me more protection in battle. When Lafayette was only 2 years old, his father, a colonel in the French military, was killed at the Battle of Minden in northern Germany during the European theater of the French and Indian War. As a young man, the Marquis was aware that his only path in life was to follow that of a military officer and to follow in his father's footsteps. And he hoped that one day that he would have the opportunity to actually avenge his father's death against the British in battle. Lafayette was raised by his maternal grandmother in the French countryside, while his mother, Julie, featured here, stayed in Paris to be presented at the court of Versailles. Though separated from his mother, Julie's actions were done out of love for her son Lafayette in order to help make connections for his later ascent into the court at Versailles. While of course Lafayette's rank as Marquis did provide him with quite a bit of social mobility in the French aristocracy, him having a close connection to the court at Versailles, these connections that his mother was making for him, would also be very beneficial to him later on as he tried to move up into the military ranks of the French military. At the age of 11, Lafayette moved from the French countryside and moved to Paris to be with his mother. More importantly, the move to Paris was made in order to ensure that he would receive a courtier's education, very important for a young man of such a high rank. But not too long after he moved to Paris, unfortunately, he's going to lose both his mother and his paternal grandfather to illness. Now, obviously, this is a huge setback for Lafayette, but the one positive that comes out of this is that because of the deaths of his paternal grandfather and his mother, he amassed a large fortune as an aristocrat, and that is going to help elevate him further in rank and hold him financially stable for the rest of his life. At the age of 13, the young Marquis joined the King's Black Musketeers, a military unit whose sole purpose was to protect the king. He received an extensive military education at the Military Academy at Versailles, but was severely unsatisfied with the service in the Musketeers. What Lafayette really longed for was real military action and a chance to honor his family's lineage in battle. In 1774, Lafayette, who was only 16 years old at the time, through a meticulously preconceived arrangement, married a 14-year-old courtier named Adrien de Noailles, whose family was extremely close with King Louis XVI. Lafayette's marriage to Adrien would only help put him in greater favor of the king, a favor which became vitally important when he entered the American Revolution in 1777. By 1775, Lafayette was growing antsy with his position as a member of the Black Musketeers. He was tired of being a glorified bodyguard for the king, and he wanted to see true military action on the battlefield. At a faithful dinner the same year, while in Minsk participating in military field maneuver exercises, Lafayette met the Duke of Gloucestershire, the younger brother to King George III. It was the Duke that enlightened the Marquis to the status of the discontent in the American colonies and their defiant protest against their king over taxation. Having been exposed to many of the ideas of the Enlightenment, including the ideas of life, liberty, and the right to property, Lafayette was intrigued by the Americans' cause in their fight for independence in 1775. Against the wishes of his family and his king, the Marquis secured a commission as a major general in the Continental Army from Silas Deane, one of the American diplomats working in Paris for the Continental Congress in 1776. In spring of 1777, Lafayette set sail from France on a ship purchased with his own funds called the Liberty, along with fellow French officers hoping to find military glory in the Continental Army. Lafayette arrived in America in July of 1777, and by the fall of the same year, he would see his first taste of action at the Battle of Brandywine under the command of General George Washington, a man who the young Marquis would grow to love and admire as a great military mind and love as a father figure. Over time, Lafayette became an admired general of George Washington and also a very important member of Washington's premier military family. Lafayette fought valiantly at the battles of Monmouth, endured the winter of 1777 and 1778 with Washington and his soldiers at Valley Forge, and helped diffuse issues that arose between French and American officers. In 1779, Lafayette returns to France with hopes of securing more troops and supplies for the Americans as they continue their fight against Great Britain. In 1780, he'll be successful in this task with receiving supplies, more troops, and also much more support that's going to be provided by King Louis XVI. Upon his return to the United States in 1780, Lafayette was sent to the Southern theater of the war to help the Southern colonies fight off General Charles Cornwallis and his troops that were making their way northward towards the town of Yorktown, Virginia. After months of chasing Cornwallis and his troops through the American South, by late summer of 1781, Lafayette and General Nathanael Greene were able to surround Cornwallis and his troops, who were encamped on the Yorktown Peninsula as they prepared for an attack on Philadelphia, an attack that would never happen. So now that you have more background information on Lafayette, we're actually going to dive deeper into his story by looking more at his full participation in the war, what he accomplished during the war effort, and then even look a little bit about what he's going to accomplish after the American Revolution once he returns to France. I hope you've enjoyed this video about the brief history of the Marquis de Lafayette, and we'll talk more about him within our lesson.